Dear friends, there comes a time in every life when the weight of what others think begins to feel heavier than the dreams within your own chest. You smile because you are told to smile. You nod because it is safer to agree. You walk the road already paved because it is easier to follow than to dare a new one. But deep inside, a whisper calls, soft at first, then louder, until it cannot be ignored. That whisper is the truth of who you are, waiting for you to let it live. I have known what it is to bend myself into shapes that pleased others. I have known the silence that comes when you hide your true voice. And I have known the ache that settles into the bones when you deny your own spirit for the comfort of the crowd. Expectations come dressed like love. They arrive as duty, as tradition, as loyalty. But if they are not your own, they bind you tighter than any chain. True freedom begins when you stop living for the approval of others and start honoring your own truth. This simple truth has the power to change the course of your entire life. For too long, we are taught that our worth is tied to the way people see us, to the compliments they give, to the praise they offer when we fit into their idea of what is good. From childhood, we are molded by voices telling us how to walk, how to speak, how to choose, until our own voice becomes a faint echo in the background. And we learn to live not for ourselves, but for the applause of others. Yet deep inside, a yearning grows, a restlessness that will not go away, for the soul was not created to be a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Freedom, the kind that fills the heart with peace, begins the moment you decide that your life will no longer be dictated by the shifting winds of public approval. Approval is a fragile thing. Today, they may praise you, and tomorrow, the same people may turn their backs. If your sense of worth is tied to that fragile thread, you will forever be at the mercy of their changing moods. But when you stand firmly in your truth, when you choose to listen to your own inner voice above the noise, you find a strength that no rejection can shake. You find a calmness that no criticism can steal. Living for approval might make you acceptable in the eyes of the world, but it robs you of yourself. You wear masks that fit the room you are in, yet when the crowd disappears, you feel empty, wondering who you really are beneath all the disguises. To break free, you must first understand that the only approval worth seeking is the approval of your own spirit. You must dare to ask yourself, what do I want? What matters to me? Who am I when no one is watching? These questions are not easy to face because they strip away every false identity you have leaned on, but in them lies the door to freedom. There is a peace that comes when you are no longer chained by the fear of disappointing others. It is not arrogance. It is not selfishness. It is the quiet dignity of knowing that you cannot live two lives. You cannot belong to yourself and belong to everyone else at the same time. You must choose. And when you choose to honor your own truth, something beautiful begins to happen. The weight lifts from your shoulders. The path becomes clearer. The heart finds rest because it no longer races to keep up with expectations that were never yours to begin with. But freedom is not without cost. The moment you stop living for approval, you may face resistance. People may question your choices. They may try to guilt you into returning to the role they once assigned you. And in those moments, you will be tempted to shrink back, to hide your truth again for the comfort of others. Yet if you stand strong, if you remain faithful to yourself, you will discover that authenticity attracts its own circle. Those who value honesty will walk beside you. Those who prefer illusions will fall away. And though the crowd may become smaller, the connections will be deeper, truer, and filled with peace. To live in this way requires courage. It means speaking when silence would have been easier. It means choosing the unknown over the familiar if the familiar denies your spirit. It means standing tall even when your knees tremble. Yet in that courage, you will find a freedom worth every sacrifice. Because no applause, no praise, no temporary nod of approval can ever compare to the steady calm of living aligned with your own truth. So let today be the day you loosen the grip of approval. Let today be the day you take one small step toward honoring your voice above every other. The world does not need another copy, another mask, another act. The world needs you as you are, raw and real and alive. And in choosing to live this way, you will not only free yourself, you will give others the courage to do the same. That is the gift of true freedom. And that is where peace begins. Expectations are borrowed scripts. Authenticity is your own song. From the moment we enter this world, scripts are handed to us. Parents hand us their dreams, teachers hand us their standards, society hands us its rules, and peers hand us their comparisons. Without realizing it, we begin performing roles that were written long before we had a chance to ask ourselves if they truly belonged to us. We walk through life repeating lines, following cues, trying not to miss our place on the stage that others have built. And though we may learn to perform well, there is always a silence afterward, a silence in the heart that knows something is missing. That missing piece is the voice of your own song, the melody that belongs only to you. A borrowed script can make you appear successful, but it cannot make you whole. You may fulfill expectations and earn applause, yet deep inside you sense the emptiness of living a life not your own. The world claps when you meet their marks, but when the crowd leaves, you are left alone with yourself, questioning if the story you are living is truly yours. This is the quiet conflict of many souls, a conflict between the comfort of approval and the longing for authenticity. To break free from expectations is to finally stop performing and start living. Your own song may not sound like what others want to hear. It may not follow the familiar notes that society repeats. It may rise with strange rhythms. It may fall with unexpected pauses. It may even sound unfinished to those who prefer a polished script. But that is the beauty of authenticity. It does not aim to please everyone. It does not strive to fit neatly into someone else's frame. Authenticity seeks only to be true, to express the essence of who you are, unfiltered and unborrowed. And in that truth lies a peace that borrowed scripts can never bring. The challenge is that most people do not recognize the weight of borrowed expectations until they begin to listen closely to themselves. It takes stillness to hear your own melody. In a world full of noise, where voices demand you to be faster, stronger, richer, or more acceptable, the act of pausing to ask yourself what you truly want is an act of courage. You may realize that the life you are chasing is not yours at all. You may realize that the job, the relationships, the routines you cling to are not aligned with the song within you. That realization can be frightening, but it is also the first step toward freedom. Living your own song does not mean rejecting every expectation. It does not mean disregarding love, respect, or responsibility. It means aligning what you choose with who you are. It means refusing to wear a mask that suffocates your spirit. It means honoring your unique rhythm, even if the world prefers you to march to theirs. And when you do, you discover that mental peace is not in pleasing every audience, but in dancing to your own music. There will always be voices that urge you back into the script. They will say your way is too risky, too different, too uncertain. And perhaps it is. But it is far more dangerous to live a life of silent despair, repeating lines that were never yours. No borrowed approval can fill the emptiness of denying yourself. Yet one honest step into your own truth can light a fire that warms your entire being. When you begin to live authentically, you stop asking for permission to exist. You no longer seek validation for every move. You learn to trust your own heart, to write your own lines, to sing your own verses. And the peace that follows is not a fleeting applause, but a lasting harmony, the kind that steadies your soul and frees your mind. So let the borrowed scripts fall away. Let the voices that try to write your story grow faint. Stand tall in the music that belongs to you, even if it trembles at first. For once you choose to sing your own song, you will find that the world does not end, it expands. And in that expansion, you will finally know what it means to live free and at peace. Mental peace is not found in perfection, but in the courage to be genuine. For so much of our lives, we are taught to strive for flawlessness. We chase after the perfect words, the perfect appearance, the perfect choices that will shield us from judgment. We polish our image, cover our scars, and rehearse our lines, believing that only by presenting ourselves without error will we finally earn acceptance. Yet, no matter how hard we try, perfection remains an illusion, always just beyond reach. And in the pursuit of it, we trade away the very peace we seek. The truth is that perfection is not a requirement for peace. It never was. What truly brings calm to the restless heart is the freedom to be real. When you allow yourself to show up with your strengths and your weaknesses, with your victories and your mistakes, you step out of the prison of impossible expectations. You begin to see that being genuine is not about being flawless, but about being honest. And honesty with yourself is the foundation of mental peace. So many carry the heavy burden of trying to meet every expectation. They dress to impress. They work beyond their limits. They hide their failures as though they were sins. On the outside, they look complete, but inside they are weary, always running from the fear of being discovered as imperfect. That fear eats away at peace. It creates a constant tension between who you are and who you pretend to be. The longer you hold that mask, the heavier it becomes. But when you choose authenticity, when you drop the mask and let yourself be seen as you are, you release that tension. You discover a quiet relief in no longer having to pretend. Being genuine takes courage because the world is quick to judge. People will point out your flaws. They will highlight your mistakes. They will question your choices. Yet their opinions do not define your worth. The measure of your peace is not in the approval of others, but in the honesty of your own heart. And when you decide to live as yourself, unapologetically, their judgments lose power over you. You stop hiding, you stop running, you start living. There is a grace in imperfection that many overlook. A cracked vase can still hold flowers. A scarred tree still bears fruit. The same is true for us. Our imperfections tell stories of survival, of lessons learned, of growth earned through struggle. To deny them is to deny the beauty of our journey. When you embrace them, you honor the truth of your life, and in that acceptance, peace naturally follows. The pursuit of perfection blinds us to the richness of authenticity. It pushes us to compare, to compete, to constantly measure ourselves against an impossible standard. But authenticity invites us to simply be. It asks us to step out of the race and walk at our own pace. It whispers that peace is not in the flawless image, but in the honest soul. And when we listen, we find that the moments we once thought of as failures are not curses, but teachers. They shape us into people with depth, with compassion, with strength that no perfect facade could ever give. To live authentically means to give yourself permission to be enough as you are. It means to breathe deeply without fear of not measuring up. It means to show kindness to yourself in ways you once reserved only for others. And the more you choose authenticity, the more you discover that people are drawn not to your perfection, but to your sincerity. They are moved not by your polished performance, but by your realness, by the courage you show in standing as you are. So let perfection fall away. Let the chase end. Step into the courage of being genuine, of showing up honestly, of allowing yourself to be fully human. That is where mental peace is found. That is where freedom begins. And that is the life worth living. Breaking free from the weight of judgment allows the soul to breathe. Judgment is one of the heaviest loads we carry. Though it cannot be seen with the eyes or touched with the hands, it lingers in the air like an invisible chain, pressing us to bend our shoulders and shrink our spirit so we can fit into the frame others have drawn for us. From the earliest moments of life, we are told what is proper, what is acceptable, what is worthy of praise, and what is to be avoided at all costs. Slowly, we begin to live not for ourselves, but for the opinions of others. We shape our choices, silence our voices, and wear masks so that no one may look too closely and disapprove. But in the silence of our own hearts, we know the truth. Judgment is suffocating. It chokes joy, it steals courage, and it robs us of the freedom to live authentically. When you allow judgment to rule your steps, you become like a bird that has wings but never flies too high for fear of being noticed. You shrink your dreams so they cannot be mocked. You hide your passions so they cannot be questioned. And though you may avoid criticism, you also avoid the fullness of life. The tragedy is that no matter how carefully you try to please, judgment never disappears. There will always be a voice ready to point out what you lack, always an eye searching for flaws, always a tongue eager to compare you to someone else. To live bound by that weight is to live endlessly in chains, chasing approval that will never be enough. But the moment you decide that judgment will not define you, the chains begin to loosen. When you stop giving every opinion power over your spirit, you feel the first breath of freedom. You begin to realize that judgment is not truth, but perspective, shaped by fear, by ignorance, by someone else's limitations. What others see in you is often more a reflection of their own insecurities than a measure of your worth. And when you understand this, their judgment loses its grip. It no longer has the power to direct your steps. Breaking free does not mean you will never feel the sting of criticism again. It means that the sting will no longer paralyze you. It means you will continue to walk in your truth even when whispers follow behind you. It means you will sing your own song even if some cover their ears. The soul breathes not because the noise disappears, but because you no longer depend on silence to feel free. You learn to live despite the voices, and in doing so, their power fades. The peace that follows is unlike anything perfection or approval can offer. When you are no longer consumed with how others see you, you can finally see yourself clearly. You notice your growth, your strength, your resilience. You stop criticizing yourself through the eyes of others and start appreciating yourself for who you are. That shift opens space inside you, space where joy can rise, space where dreams can stretch, space where authenticity can thrive. It is like taking a deep breath after years of shallow air, filling your lungs with the fullness of life. There will always be people who judge, just as there will always be clouds in the sky. But just as the clouds cannot stop the sun from shining, judgment cannot stop a spirit that has chosen freedom. You cannot control the opinions of others, but you can choose how much space those opinions occupy in your soul. You can choose to walk tall, to breathe deeply, to live boldly, regardless of who is watching. And in that choice, you will find a peace far greater than approval could ever bring. So let the weight of judgment fall from your shoulders. Let the voices of disapproval pass you like wind through trees. Stand firm in the truth of who you are and give your soul the space to breathe freely. That breath is the sound of freedom, and that freedom is the foundation of peace. Living authentically turns fear into strength and silence into voice. Fear is a quiet visitor that enters the heart without knocking. It tells you not to stand out, not to speak up, not to risk being seen. It whispers that you will fail, that you will be judged, that you will lose what little comfort you have if you dare to step into your truth. And for a time, many of us listen, we shrink ourselves, we sit in the back, we silence our thoughts even when our hearts ache to speak. We choose the safety of shadows over the vulnerability of light. But this kind of living is not living at all. It is surviving, and survival alone cannot give peace to the soul. Authenticity has the power to transform that fear. When you begin to live in your truth, fear may still be present, but it no longer rules you. Instead, it becomes fuel. The trembling in your hands becomes the sign that you are stepping into something real. The racing of your heart becomes proof that you are alive and daring. Fear is no longer a signal to retreat, but a signal to rise. And every time you choose authenticity over avoidance, fear loses a little more of its hold, until eventually it becomes strength. There is a strength that comes only from walking through fear rather than running from it. It is not the loud strength that demands attention, but the quiet strength that anchors you deeply within yourself. It allows you to speak your truth even when your voice shakes. It allows you to stand tall even when the ground feels unsteady. And slowly, you realize that the very things you once feared most, the judgment, the rejection, the disapproval, cannot break you when you are grounded in your own authenticity. You are no longer defined by what others think of you. You are defined by the courage to honor your truth. For many, silence becomes a prison built by fear. They do not speak their dreams aloud because they worry someone will laugh. They do not share their pain because they fear being misunderstood. They do not tell their truth because they are afraid it will not be accepted. And so they carry words inside them that were meant to heal, to inspire, to change lives, including their own. But when you live authentically, silence loses its power to imprison you. Your voice finds its way forward, sometimes softly, sometimes boldly, but always honestly. And in that voice, there is freedom. Speaking your truth does not mean shouting it from every rooftop. It means allowing yourself to express what is real, even if only to one person, even if only to yourself. It is the act of refusing to bury your soul beneath layers of fear. And as your voice grows, others begin to hear it. They recognize the courage in your authenticity, and they too begin to believe they can speak, they can lie, they can be free. In this way, your authenticity becomes a gift, not just to you, but to everyone who witnesses it. Fear will always exist, but authenticity transforms its role in your life. It takes what once silenced you and turns it into a reminder that you are pushing beyond limits. It takes what once held you back and uses it as evidence that you are moving closer to your true self. And the voice that emerges from that transformation is strong, steady, and free. It is the voice of someone who has chosen truth over pretense, courage over comfort, freedom over fear. So let authenticity guide you through the shadows of fear. Let it turn the tremble of uncertainty into the strength of resilience. Let it open your lips when silence tries to close them. For when you live authentically, fear becomes your teacher, silence becomes your song, and your life becomes the reflection of a truth that no force can take away. That is the strength of authenticity, and that is the freedom of your voice. The courage to be yourself inspires others to break their own chains. People often think of authenticity as a personal journey, something that affects only the one who chooses to live honestly. Yet the truth is far greater. Every act of courage ripples outward. Every time you stand in your truth, every time you live without apology, you give silent permission for others to do the same. You become a living example that freedom is possible, and for many, that example is the spark that begins their own transformation. Think of the people who have inspired you most deeply. Rarely were they flawless. Rarely were they the ones who bent themselves into the shapes that everyone approved of. More often, they were the ones who dared to show up as they were, unpolished, unafraid to be different. Their honesty gave you strength because it showed you that perfection is not required to live meaningfully. In the same way, when you choose authenticity, you give that gift to those around you. You show them that they too can shed the masks that suffocate them, that they too can walk lighter without the burden of endless expectations. We live in a world where many suffer in silence, convinced that they must keep playing the roles assigned to them. They believe they are alone in their struggle, that no one else feels the same conflict between duty and desire, between approval and truth. But when one person steps forward and lives authentically, it breaks that illusion of isolation. It tells the silent hearts you are not alone. It tells them you can choose differently. And often, that is enough to ignite their own courage. This is how authenticity becomes a chain breaker. It does not demand others to change. It does not preach or force. It simply lives openly and truthfully, and by its very presence, it disrupts the lie that we must all conform. A single voice, spoken with courage, can give rise to countless other voices. A single life, lived in truth, can inspire generations to step into their own freedom. This is the quiet but undeniable power of authenticity. Of course, choosing to be yourself comes with risks. You may face criticism. You may lose relationships that were built on your willingness to conform. You may feel, at first, that the price of freedom is too high. Yet, when you consider what your courage makes possible, not only for you but for others, the cost begins to look smaller. Because when you live authentically, you are not only freeing yourself, you are planting seeds of freedom in the hearts of those who watch you. And in time, those seeds bloom into courage that spreads far beyond what you could imagine. Children learn not from what we tell them, but from what we show them. Friends draw strength not from what we say, but from how we live. Strangers even can find encouragement in the sight of someone walking boldly in their truth. You may never know how many lives your courage will touch, but you can be certain that it will touch more than your own. Because authenticity is contagious. It carries an energy that awakens others. It whispers to them that the chains they thought unbreakable are weaker than they believed. To inspire others does not mean you must live without fear or stumble. In fact, it is your stumbles that often give them the most hope. When they see you falter and still continue, they learn that courage is not about being fearless, but about moving forward anyway. When they see you criticized and still standing, they learn that judgment cannot destroy a spirit rooted in truth. Your authenticity, lived with all its imperfections, becomes proof that freedom is not a dream but a choice. So never underestimate the impact of your courage. It may feel like a small act to simply live as yourself, but to someone watching, it may be the light that guides them out of their darkness. To someone listening, it may be the song that gives them permission to sing. To someone waiting, it may be the final push they need to break free from their own chains. And in this way, your authenticity becomes not only your liberation, but also a gift of liberation to the world. Let your courage be steady. Let your truth be visible. Live openly, because every act of authenticity carries with it the power to inspire. And when one chain breaks, many others soon follow. That is the lasting gift of being yourself, and that is the freedom that multiplies when courage is shared. Peace is the reward of a life lived in truth, not in imitation. For too long, many of us move through this world wearing borrowed faces and chasing borrowed dreams, believing that if we simply mirror the paths of others, we will find contentment. We imitate the voices we admire. We copy the choices that seem safe. And we follow the footprints already pressed into the earth, thinking they will lead us to fulfillment. Yet, imitation may bring temporary comfort, but it cannot bring lasting peace. Peace is not born from sameness. Peace is born from truth, and truth cannot be copied. It must be lived. When you live in imitation, you are always searching for validation. You measure your success by how closely you resemble someone else. You define your worth by how well you match what society calls good or respectable. But in that constant comparison, there is no rest. There is always someone higher to reach, someone louder to follow, someone brighter to outshine. The chase never ends, and the heart never settles. Imitation is a race without a finish line. You run and run, but you never arrive. Truth, however, does not demand comparison. It simply asks you to be what you are. Living in truth means waking up each day and honoring your own rhythm, your own pace, your own calling. It means listening not to the shouts of the world, but to the still, small voice within that knows what you need. And when you do, you discover that peace was never outside of you, never in someone else's story, but always waiting within your own. Peace comes when you are no longer at war with yourself. When the mask drops and the pretense fades, you feel the quiet relief of not having to perform. You no longer need to carry the burden of pretending to be someone you are not. That burden, though invisible, is heavier than stone, and it is what keeps so many weary and restless. But once you step into truth, the weight falls away. The mind clears, the heart softens, and the soul breathes. That is the taste of peace, the reward of authenticity. The beauty of truth is that it embraces imperfection. It does not demand that you have every answer or that your path be without flaws. Truth allows mistakes, welcomes growth, and honors the process. It sees your scars not as shame, but as evidence of resilience. And when you can see yourself with that same grace, peace becomes possible. Imitation, by contrast, insists on a polished surface. It forces you to hide your flaws, to erase your struggles, to present a picture that looks whole but feels empty. Peace cannot survive in such a false place. Only truth can hold it steady. Living in truth may not always be easy. It may lead you away from familiar roads. It may cause you to lose the approval of those who prefer the safety of imitation. But what you gain is far greater than what you lose. You gain the inner calm that comes from knowing you are aligned with yourself. You gain the strength of standing in a place where no opinion can shake you. You gain the quiet joy of living a life that is yours and yours alone. And as you walk in that truth, you begin to see how peace spreads into every part of your life. Relationships grow deeper because they are built on honesty, not performance. Work becomes more meaningful because it reflects your purpose, not just a paycheck. Even in moments of struggle, you find resilience because your peace is rooted in truth, not in appearances. This is the reward that cannot be imitated, cannot be borrowed, cannot be faked. It must be lived. So let go of imitation. Let go of the exhausting chase to mirror someone else's life. Step boldly into your truth, even if it trembles at first. For when you honor who you are, peace will meet you there. And no applause, no approval, no imitation can ever give what truth freely offers. Peace is the gift of living authentically, and peace is the prize of a life lived in truth. When we break free from expectations, when we stop living for borrowed approval and choose instead to honor our truth, we find a freedom that cannot be taken away. We discover that fear becomes strength, silence becomes voice, and judgment loses its grip. We learn that authenticity is not only our liberation, but also a light for others, a quiet inspiration that helps them step into their own freedom. And in that choice, we are rewarded with the deepest gift of all, peace, the kind that settles in the soul and stays. So walk boldly in your truth. Breathe deeply in your freedom. Trust that your authenticity is not only enough, it is the very reason you are here. May you find strength in your steps, calm in your spirit, and joy in the life that is truly yours. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for allowing these words to walk beside you. My brothers, my sisters, my people, stand up. Stand up in the name of freedom. Stand up in the name of truth. Stand up because the chains they fastened to our feet were never ours to wear. Oh, they have called us by many names, told us what we could be, what we should be, what we would never be. You are a woman, so be small, be quiet, be soft. You are a man, so be strong, be fierce, be unshaken. But I say enough. Who has the right to tell a bird it cannot fly? Who dares tell the river it must not run? Who whispers in the ear of a child that dreams are measured by the weight of their body, by the shape of their hands? They have told our mothers to shrink. They have told our fathers to harden. They have built walls where there should have been bridges, but we are the architects of something new. So break the chain. Break it with your voice, lifted high and unafraid. Break it with your hands, building a world where no one is caged by expectation. Break it with your spirit, rising, always rising toward the sun. Let no one tell you who you are. Let no one tell you what you cannot do. Walk in your fullness, walk in your fire, walk in your truth. For too long, the world has whispered in our ears, telling us who we should be. It has drawn invisible lines in the sand, marking where we are allowed to stand, where we are allowed to speak, how high we are allowed to reach. It has given us roles as if we were born only to fill spaces shaped by someone else's hands. They have said, this is what a man must be, and this is what a woman must do. They have dressed us in their rules, their traditions, their fears, never stopping to ask if we wanted to wear them. But hear me now. You were not placed on this earth to be squeezed into the smallness of their vision. You were not molded from dust and dreams just to be told what you cannot do. No, you are more than the weight of their words, more than the chains they try to fasten to your spirit. There is something greater inside you, something burning, something brilliant, something unstoppable. They say to the girl, be quiet, be gentle, be obedient, and yet within her is the roar of a lioness, the storm of 1,000 winds, the force of a wave that does not ask permission to crash upon the shore. They say to the boy, do not cry, do not bend, do not break. And yet within him is the depth of an ocean, the tenderness of morning light, the strength that comes not from hardness, but from love. What they have failed to understand is this: true power does not come from fitting into their narrow idea of what we should be. True power comes from embracing all that we are without shame, without fear. It comes from refusing to let the world silence us, confine us, reduce us. It comes from walking boldly in our own truth, no matter who tries to turn us back. There will be those who tell you to lower your eyes, to shrink yourself, to fit the frame they built for you. They will call you too much or not enough. They will try to convince you that their comfort is worth more than your freedom. But listen to me. You were not born to make them comfortable. You were born to set fire to the old ways, to break the cycle of limitation, to build a world where no child grows up believing they must be less just to be accepted. And when they try to stop you, when they tell you to stay in your place, when they look at you with eyes full of doubt, remember this: the fire inside you was never meant to be contained. Let it rise, let it shine. Let it burn so brightly that the walls they built to hold you back crumble into dust. Because you are not defined by their expectations, only by the fire within you. Break the mold and you break the cycle. Rewrite the story for those who follow. For generations we have lived inside stories written by hands that did not know our power, voices that did not hear our truth. They built the mold long before we arrived, and they expected us to fit inside it without question. They told us this is the way it has always been, as if history itself was reason enough to stay bound. They called it tradition, called it culture, called it the natural order of things, but in truth, It was only fear. Fear of change, fear of freedom, fear of a world they could no longer control. But we were never meant to be trapped in a past that no longer serves us. We were never meant to carry the weight of outdated expectations, to inherit chains disguised as wisdom. The world has changed, and we must change with it. We must be bold enough to break the mold, to step beyond what has been and create something new, something just, something worthy of the generations yet to come. Every time a girl is told she cannot lead, a door closes not just for her, but for every girl watching. Every time a boy is told he must harden his heart to be strong, a piece of his soul is silenced, and the world loses a tenderness it so desperately needs. Every time a woman is expected to be small so others can feel big, every time a man is forced to wear a mask that suffocates his truth, the cycle continues. It moves from one home to another, from one classroom to another, from one generation to the next. But cycles are not unbreakable. They are not fate. They are only patterns that exist because people allow them to. And just as they were created, they can be undone, they can be rewritten. So we must dare to be different, dare to challenge what no longer serves us, dare to stand up and say no more. Because when one woman rises, others find their wings. It gives others the courage to do the same. When one woman rises, others find their wing. When one man chooses kindness over control, love over dominance, he creates space for others to do the same. Change does not begin in the halls of power, in the great speeches of leaders. It begins in homes, in hearts, in the quiet moments where someone dares to believe in something better. And it is not easy. Breaking the mold is uncomfortable. It will make some people uneasy. It will make some people angry. They will tell you that you are wrong, that you are foolish, that you should just accept things as they are. But they only say that because they fear the shift, fear the loss of the rules that kept them comfortable. Do not let their fear become your burden. Do not let their doubt become your cage, because this is not just about you. This is about the little girl watching her mother and learning what it means to be a woman. This is about the little boy watching his father and learning what it means to be a man. This is about the child who is yet to be born, the one who will inherit whatever world we leave behind. So break the mold and you break the cycle. Shatter the limits they placed on you, and you open doors for those who come after you. Stand in your truth, and you light a path for others to follow. And one day, when the next generation looks back, they will not see a world built on fear. They will see a world shaped by courage, a world where no one is forced into a mold too small for their spirit. A voice unchained is a revolution begun. Speak, rise, defy. For too long, voices have been silenced under the weight of expectation. They have been softened, tamed, and reshaped to fit the comfort of those unwilling to listen. Girls have been told to be quiet, to not speak too boldly, to not challenge too fiercely. Boys have been warned not to question, not to show vulnerability, not to stray from the path that has already been laid for them. And so silence becomes survival, conformity becomes the safest road. But a world where voices are locked away is a world that remains unchanged, a world that repeats the same stories, upholding the same chains. But what happens when one voice dares to rise, when one voice refuses to be tamed? What happens when a woman stands and says, I will not be quiet? Or when a man steps forward and says, I will not be confined? What happens when a child, innocent and unafraid, speaks their truth without shame? The ground begins to shift, the walls tremble, the world that once seemed so solid, so permanent, begins to crack under the power of one undeniable voice. They will say, this is how it has always been. But history has never been shaped by those who accept what has always been. It has been shaped by those who refuse to be silent in the face of injustice, by those who rise even when told to sit down, by those who defy even when it would be easier to conform. There is power in a voice that refuses to be caged. It is a force stronger than any law, any tradition, any expectation. It moves like fire through dry fields, unstoppable, undeniable, burning away the old so that something new can take root. A single voice can ignite a movement. A single voice can change the course of a life. A single voice can remind the world that silence is not peace, that acceptance is not justice, that obedience is not always right. But speaking is not without consequence. There will always be those who try to silence the ones who dare to challenge the way things are. They will call them troublemakers, rebels, fools. They will dismiss their words as noise, their defiance as disrespect. They will try to shame them into retreating, to scare them into submission. And yet history belongs to those who refuse to stay silent, the ones who stood on the streets and demanded change, the ones who wrote, who sang, who marched, who spoke even when their voices trembled. The ones who knew that their words were not just for themselves, but for those who could not yet speak, for those still trapped in fear, for those waiting for a sign that they too could be free. It is easy to believe that one voice is not enough, that one voice against a crowd will be lost, that one voice against a system will not be heard, but that is the lie that keeps chains in place. The truth is that one voice inspires another. One act of defiance sparks another, and before long, what was once a whisper grows into a roar, a sound so powerful that it can no longer be ignored. So do not be silent. Speak your truth even when it shakes the ground beneath you. Rise even when they tell you to stay down. Defy even when they say it is impossible. Because a voice unchained is not just a sound. It is a revolution waiting to begin. Strength has no gender, courage knows no boundaries, and dreams bow to no labels. From the moment we enter this world, we are placed into categories, wrapped in colors, handed roles as if we are nothing more than characters in a script already written. Boys are told to be strong, to stand tall, to never let the world see their tears. Girls are told to be graceful, to be soft, to hold their strength in whispers rather than in shouts. And so, the world builds walls between what is and what should be, between what they expect and what we are meant to become. But strength is not found in the weight of a body, nor in the depth of a voice. Strength is not measured by how many burdens one can carry in silence or how well one hides their pain. Strength is not exclusive, not something handed only to those who fit a narrow definition. It is a force that belongs to all who dare to rise, all who choose to stand, all who refuse to be defined by the limits of another's mind. A woman who commands a room with her presence, a man who holds his child with tenderness, a child who dares to chase a dream no one else believes in. This is strength. A girl who refuses to lower her gaze, a boy who speaks against injustice, a soul that stands alone when it would be easier to follow. This is courage. It is not found in fists or in fear, in silence or submission. It is found in truth, in resilience, in the unshakable belief that who you are is enough. The world has long tried to tell us otherwise. It has taught boys that tears are weakness, that vulnerability is shameful. It has taught girls that ambition is arrogance, that leadership is not for them. It has told us that our worth is determined by the expectations placed upon us rather than by the fire within us. But look around. See the women who lead, the men who nurture, the people who refuse to be placed in boxes too small for their spirit. They are proof that strength is limitless, that courage does not come with conditions, that dreams belong to those who dare to chase them. Yet still there are those who will resist. They will say that a woman cannot be both strong and gentle, that a man cannot be both powerful and kind. They will cling to their definitions, to their boundaries, because to accept the truth would mean admitting they have been wrong. But change does not ask for permission. It moves forward with or without their approval, and those who embrace it, who refuse to be held back by old ways of thinking, will be the ones to build a new world. A world where a girl does not hesitate before raising her voice. A world where a boy does not question if kindness makes him less of a man. A world where no one is told their dreams are too big for the space they have been given. That world is not some distant hope, it is within reach. It begins when we reject the labels that were never meant for us. It begins when we recognize that strength has no gender, courage knows no boundaries, and dreams bow to no labels. When one mind is freed from limitation, the whole world takes a step forward. For generations, we have been taught to think within boundaries not of our making. We have been told where we belong, how far we may go, what roles we are allowed to play. These limitations do not exist because we lack ability or ambition. They exist because someone somewhere decided that we should not reach beyond what they could understand. A girl who dreams of building bridges is told that engineering is not for her. A boy who finds joy in nurturing is told that caregiving is not his role. A woman who speaks with authority is called difficult. A man who expresses emotion is called weak. These messages are not spoken in loud voices. They are whispered into the fabric of our everyday lives, woven into traditions, hidden in expectations, and before we realize it, we have built cages within our own minds, accepting limitations as if they are truths. But what happens when one person refuses to accept these limits, when one person dares to ask, why not? The moment a mind breaks free, the world shifts. The moment one person steps beyond expectation, they carve a path for countless others to follow. One woman stepping into leadership opens doors for millions of girls watching. One man embracing his full humanity gives permission for others to do the same. One child refusing to be told what they cannot do challenges a cycle that has existed for centuries. The world is not changed by those who simply accept what they are given. It is changed by those who see beyond, who dream beyond, who refuse to let fear and tradition dictate their future. Every breakthrough, every revolution, every movement that has reshaped history began with one mind daring to be free. It was never the ones who conformed who built the future. It was always the ones who questioned, who imagined, who defied. And yet, breaking free is not easy. The world does not always welcome those who challenge the rule. There will be resistance. There will be doubt. There will be voices urging you to step back in line. But every step forward is a step towards something greater. Every limit you shatter is another weight lifted for those who come after you. The fight to free one mind is never just about that one person. It is about the generations who will inherit the space that freedom creates. So dare to think beyond what has been handed to you. Dare to reject the limits placed upon you. Dare to believe that your mind, your voice, your ideas have the power to shape something new. Because when one mind is freed, it does not rise alone. The whole world takes a step forward. Be bold enough to challenge, brave enough to change, and wise enough to lead. The world does not change on its own. It does not wake up one morning and decide to abandon old ways, to rewrite the patterns of injustice, to rewrite the rules that have kept so many bound. No, change comes when people dare to challenge what has always been, when they look at the world not with acceptance but with defiance, when they see unfairness and refuse to call it tradition, when they hear silence and know it must be filled with truth. But challenging the world is not easy. It is not comfortable. It is not safe. It requires boldness, the kind that does not shrink under scrutiny, the kind that does not back down when confronted with resistance. Because resistance will come. There will always be those who believe that the way things are is the way they should remain. They will say, this is just the way life is, as if injustice is a natural force rather than a choice. They will tell you that you are too young, too small, too different, too much. And yet, every great change in history has come from those who were told the same, but chose to act anyway. To challenge the world, you must be willing to stand where no one else will. to ask the questions no one else dares to ask, to demand the answers no one else is ready to give. You must be willing to step into discomfort, to make people uneasy, to shake the foundation of what they have always known. Because only when the ground shifts can something new be built. But boldness alone is not enough. You must also be brave enough to change not just the world around you, but yourself. Because change does not begin with the laws we pass or the speeches we give. It begins with the choices we make in our own lives and our own hearts. It is easy to demand transformation from others, but real courage comes in looking inward and asking, what must I change? What biases do I carry? What fears hold me back? It is not enough to challenge the system if we are not willing to grow beyond what we have been taught. And then with boldness and bravery comes wisdom, the wisdom to lead. Because change needs more than fire. It needs direction. It needs hands steady enough to build, voices strong enough to inspire, minds clear enough to know that not every battle is won overnight. True leadership is not about being the loudest, but about being the one who lifts others, the one who listens as much as they speak, the one who understands that the goal is not personal victory, but collective progress. It is not enough to simply want a better world. You must be willing to fight for it, to stand for it, to shape it with your own hands. Be bold enough to challenge, brave enough to change, and wise enough to lead, because the future belongs to those who dare to claim it. Chains were made to be broken, so shatter them and walk in your power. From the moment we take our first breath, the world begins to place chains upon us. Some are obvious, heavy with expectation, rattling with every step we take. Others are invisible, woven into the way we are spoken to, the way we are treated, the way we are made to feel small. These chains are built from words like should and must, from traditions that tell us where we belong, from fears passed down through generations that whisper, this is the way things have always been. But what they fail to see is that no chain is unbreakable. No limitation is permanent. No expectation set by others has the power to define you unless you allow it. The world may try to bind you in rules that do not fit your spirit, may try to make you believe that your worth is determined by your gender, by the role they have assigned to you. But the truth is, you were never meant to be confined. You were meant to rise. The greatest revolutions in history did not begin with permission. They began when people refused to be bound, when women refused to be told that their place was in the background, when men rejected the idea that strength meant silence, when individuals stood in their truth and declared, I am more than what you say I am. And with each act of defiance, a chain was shattered. With each step forward, the weight of expectation grew lighter. It is not always easy to break free. The world does not like change. It does not like those who challenge the system, who ask, why not? It does not like those who refuse to shrink, who refuse to be less so that others can feel comfortable. There will be resistance. There will be voices telling you that you are wrong, that you should be grateful for what you have, that you should not ask for more. But remember this. Every person who has ever made a difference in this world was once told the same. To break the chains that bind you, you must first recognize them. You must look at the stories you have been told about who you are supposed to be and ask yourself if they are true. You must question the rules that have been placed upon you, the limits that have been disguised as destiny. And when you see them for what they are, fear, control, a desperate attempt to keep things as they have always been, you must gather your strength and break them, not just for yourself, but for those who come after you. Because every time one person stands in their power, they make it easier for someone else to do the same. Every time one person refuses to be silenced, they give others permission to speak. Every time one person walks away from the chains meant to hold them, they open the door for others to follow. So shatter them. Shatter the idea that you must be small. Shatter the belief that strength belongs to only one kind of person. Shatter the expectation that you must live within the limits set by others, because chains were never meant to last forever. They were made to be broken. And you, strong, brilliant, unstoppable, you were made to walk in your power. The time for silence is over. The time for waiting, for seeking permission, for hoping that change will come on its own. That time has passed. We stand at the edge of something greater, something bolder, something that refuses to be held back by the weight of history. The chains that once bound us, of expectation, of tradition, of fear, have begun to crack. And now it is up to us to break them completely. Each voice raised is a revolution. Each mind freed is a step toward a future where strength has no gender, where courage is not limited, where dreams are not dictated by stereotypes. The power to change the world has never rested in the hands of those who accept things as they are. It has always belonged to those who rise, who challenge, who refuse to be anything less than their full, unshaken, undeniable selves. So rise, speak, defy, walk in your power, not just for yourself, but for those who will come after you, for the young girl who needs to see that she can lead, for the young boy who needs to know that kindness does not make him weak, for every person who has ever felt trapped by a world too small for their spirit. Be the one who shows them the way forward. The future does not belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who dare. And I have no doubt that you are among them. Good luck on your journey. May you walk boldly, break barriers, and never dim your light for anyone. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear souls walking this earth with hearts that have known the tremble of love and the shatter of loss, listen to me. I know that pain, the kind that crawls into your bones, settles in the hollow of your chest and makes a home in your silence, the kind that turns music into noise and laughter into echoes of what once was. Somebody you loved walked away, or maybe you had to be the one to go. Either way, love slipped through your fingers like water, and now you stand with empty hands wondering how you hold yourself up. But let me tell you something. Heartache may visit you, but it does not own you. Sorrow may knock, but you do not have to invite it to stay. Before they arrived, before their laughter filled your ears, before their touch traced your skin, you were whole. You were not waiting to be completed, not searching for someone to define you. You stood on your own 2 feet, carrying dreams in your pockets and purpose in your soul. Love did not create you. Love only found you along the way. And now that love has left, you are still standing, still breathing, still you. But I know, when love departs, it feels like it takes a piece of you with it. It feels like something is missing, like the spaces they used to fill are now voids too deep to mend. The nights grow longer, the mornings feel colder, and you wonder if the sun will ever rise the same way again. I promise you it will, and so will you. There is a lie we have been told, a whisper woven into every song, every story, every desperate love letter. This idea that we are halves, roaming the earth in search of our missing piece. That without another we are unfinished, incomplete. But let me tell you something true. You were born whole. You did not enter this world as a fragment. You were not crafted to be a puzzle piece in someone else's picture. You are an entire masterpiece, painted by the hands of time and experience, shaped by the winds of joy and sorrow. When love enters our lives, it is beautiful. It adds color, depth, and new dimensions. It teaches us, stretches us, fills us with warmth, but it is not our foundation. It is not our spine, not our breath, not the force that keeps our heart beating. And so, when love leaves, when a person walks away or a chapter closes, we do not crumble. We may bend, we may ache, we may grieve, but we do not disappear. You must remember who you were before them. Remember the dreams you had, the passions that set your soul on fire. Remember the way you laughed before love's name was ever written across your heart. Love was a beautiful addition, but not the essence of your being. Your essence remains untouched. It is in the way you move through the world, in the way you rise after falling, in the way you love yourself even when others forget to. Heartbreak is not proof of your weakness. It is proof of your depth, your capacity to feel, to give, to risk. But even the deepest wounds heal, and even the most shattered hearts find their rhythm again. Do not stand in the ruins mourning what was, believing that you have lost yourself in the process. You are not lost. You are right here, and you are whole. Yes, love will come again. Yes, your heart will beat wild and reckless once more. But let it be a love that honors the wholeness you already possess. A love that does not complete you, but complements you, enhances you, elevates you. Until then, hold yourself close. Speak kindly to your reflection. Walk with your head high, knowing that you are enough, that you always were. You were whole before them, you are whole now, and you will be whole long after. Pain is a visitor. It comes uninvited, knocks on your door, and settles in like it has nowhere else to be. It lingers in the quiet, in the spaces between your laughter, in the empty seat beside you where love once sat. It is heavy, pressing against your chest, making every breath feel like labor. It whispers to you in the stillness, telling you that you will never feel the same again, that this ache is permanent, that this is who you are now. But listen to me, pain is not your home. It is not your name. It is not your forever. Yes, it hurts. It hurts in the kind of way that makes the world seem colorless, that turns music into noise and joy into something distant. But just because pain is here now does not mean it is here to stay. It is a storm, wild and raging, but storms do not last forever. The winds howl, the rain falls, and the skies grow dark, but even the worst of storms must eventually pass. And when they do, the sun finds its way back. The sky clears, the air feels lighter, and life begins again. I know it feels like this pain is endless, like it has woven itself into the very fabric of your being. But do not make a bed for it. Do not hand it the key to your soul and allow it to take up permanent residence. Feel it, acknowledge it, let it wash over you if it must, but then let it go. You are not meant to live in sadness. You are not meant to wake up each morning with sorrow as your first thought, to carry grief like a weight strapped to your back. Love may have left, but life has not. And life, my dear, is still calling for you. It is waiting for you to notice the beauty that still exists, the laughter that still echoes, the possibilities that still stretch out before you. If pain is a visitor, then healing is too. It moves quietly at first, slipping in through small moments, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the comfort of a familiar song, the way your own laughter surprises you after weeks of silence. It does not announce itself loudly, does not demand attention, but it is always working, always waiting for you to welcome it in. And one day you will wake up, and the pain will not be the first thing you feel. One day you will realize that it no longer lingers in the corners of your mind, that it no longer controls the rhythm of your days. One day you will look in the mirror and see someone who survived, someone who endured, someone who has risen. You do not belong to pain. You never did. It may have knocked on your door, but you are the one who decides when it must leave, and when you do, you will see. Life is still here, waiting for you to claim it once more. Love may have slipped through your fingers, may have walked away in the middle of the night or in the brightness of the day, but hear me now. Your story is far from over. It feels like an ending, I know, like the last page of a book you weren't ready to close, like something precious was torn from your hands before you could hold it a little longer, before you could make it stay. The silence left behind is loud, deafening even, and the absence of what once was feels like a void too deep to ever be filled. But let me tell you something. This is not where your life stops. This is not the period at the end of your sentence. It is only a pause, a breath, a space where something new is waiting to begin. Love lost is not life lost. It may shake you, it may break you open, but it does not take you. You are still here. Your heart still beats. Your lungs still draw breath. Your spirit still moves beneath the weight of sorrow. That means there is more for you, more love, more joy, more chapters yet to be written. Just because one person did not stay does not mean you are unworthy of love. Just because one story has ended does not mean there are no more stories left to tell. The world has a way of making us believe that love is the pinnacle of existence, that without it we are merely wandering, waiting, incomplete. But you are not just a love story. You are a tale of resilience, of strength, of becoming. You are a novel filled with pages of growth, of discovery, of victories, both small and great. Love may have been a part of your journey, but it was never meant to be the destination. There are still places you have yet to see, dreams you have yet to chase, laughter you have yet to spill freely into the air. There are still sunrises that will take your breath away, music that will make your soul dance, hands, yes, hands that will one day hold yours with the gentleness and certainty you deserve. There is still so much waiting for you. Grieve if you must. Feel the weight of what was lost. Acknowledge the pain. Let the tears fall if they need to. But do not stay in sorrow's embrace for too long. Do not let it convince you that this is all there is, that the best of love is behind you. Love is not a one-time miracle. It is not a single moment, a single person, a single chance that once lost can never return. Love is abundant, ever-moving, ever-changing. It will find you again. And when it does, it will not feel like loss, but like life beginning once more. So lift your head. Step forward. Your story is still unfolding, and the best is yet to come. Healing is not about forgetting. It is not about erasing memories, pretending love never existed, or forcing yourself to move as if your heart was never broken. Healing is about growing. It is about taking the pain, the loss, the lessons, and allowing them to shape you into someone wiser, stronger, and more deeply in tune with yourself. The world will tell you to just move on, as if love was a place you could pack up and leave behind in a single step. But love, real love, leaves fingerprints on your soul. It changes you. It is not something you simply walk away from. It is something you carry with you in ways both heavy and light. And that is not a bad thing, because healing does not mean pretending it never mattered. It means understanding that even pain has a purpose, that even heartbreak can be a teacher. You do not have to forget the way they made you smile. You do not have to erase the good just because the ending was hard. Love is still love, even if it did not last forever. The moments that made you feel alive, the laughter, the tenderness, the way your heart opened, all of that was real. And just because it is over does not mean it was in vain. But what you must do, what healing demands, is that you do not let the loss define you. You do not let it turn you bitter. Do not let it close the doors of your heart. Love did not break you. It only revealed the depths of your feeling, the strength of your spirit. And now with that same strength, you must rise. Growth is not always comfortable. It stretches you, pulls you beyond what is familiar. It asks you to sit with your pain, to face it, to understand it rather than running from it. It requires you to be patient with yourself, to honor your emotions but not become enslaved by them. Some days will feel lighter than others. Some nights will still feel lonely, but slowly, surely, the weight lessens. The spaces once filled by sadness make room for joy again. Healing is also about rediscovering yourself. When we love deeply, we sometimes forget the parts of us that existed before that love. We intertwine so much of our identity with another person that when they leave, we are left wondering who we are without them. But you are not lost. You are still you, the same person who had dreams, passions, laughter, and a life before they came along. And now, you have the chance to find yourself again, to love yourself in ways you may have neglected. Take this time to grow into the person you are meant to be. Learn new things, chase forgotten dreams, nurture your soul. Healing is not about rushing to fill the empty spaces with someone new, but about becoming whole within yourself. Love will come again, but when it does, let it find you standing strong in your own light, not searching for someone else to complete you. So do not rush to forget. Instead, choose to grow. Let the pain teach you. Let the memories shape you. Let the love that once was be a stepping stone rather than an anchor. You are healing even now, and soon you will rise, not as someone who has merely moved on, but as someone who has grown into something greater. Rejection stings. It cuts deep, settling in your bones, making you question everything, your worth, your love, your very existence in someone else's life. It whispers doubts into your mind, making you wonder if you were not enough, if you loved too much or too little, if something about you needed fixing. But hear me now. Rejection is not a statement about your value. It is not a condemnation, not a final verdict on your ability to be loved. It is redirection, a road sign pointing you towards something greater, something meant for you. I know it does not feel that way now. Right now, it feels like a door has been slammed in your face, like something precious has been taken from you. And in some ways, it has. Love is precious. Connection is sacred. And when they slip away, the loss is real. But just because something was beautiful does not mean it was meant to last. Just because a love felt deep does not mean it was right for the journey ahead. You see, we often try to hold on to people who are not meant to stay. We tie our happiness to hands that were never meant to carry it, and when they leave, we mourn not just the love, but the future we imagined, the version of life we thought was ours. But sometimes what we thought was for us was only ever a lesson, a stepping stone, a moment of growth before something better comes along. Rejection is not the end of your story. It is only the universe clearing the path, removing what does not belong so that what is meant for you can take its place. It is an act of unseen kindness, a force moving you away from what would have only dimmed your life. If someone did not see your worth, if they could not love you the way you deserve, then let them go. Let them leave. Do not chase what does not choose you. Do not beg for a love that has to be convinced. Love should never be something you have to prove. It should never be a desperate plea to be seen, to be chosen, to be held in the way you know you deserve. The right love, the real love, will not make you question yourself. It will not leave you wondering if you are too much or not enough. It will come freely, fully, without hesitation. And so, rejection is not loss. It is protection. It is grace in disguise. It is the world gently pulling you away from what would have only held you back. It is making space for something better, something deeper, something that will not require you to shrink yourself to fit. Yes, it hurts now. Yes, it feels unfair, feels cruel, feels like something irreplaceable has been taken from you. But in time, you will see. You will see why it had to happen, why that door had to close, why that love had to end. And when you do, you will not be bitter. You will be grateful. You will understand that rejection was never meant to break you. It was meant to set you free. Your worth is not defined by who stays or who leaves. It is not measured by the love someone else is willing or unwilling to give you. It does not rise when someone chooses you, nor does it fall when they walk away. You, my dear, are valuable because you exist, because you breathe, because you love, because you stand tall in a world that sometimes tries to make you feel small. It is easy to believe that love is proof of our worth, that being chosen means we are special, that being loved means we are enough. And when love slips away, when someone we held close decides they no longer want to stay, we take it as a reflection of ourselves. We stand in the mirror, searching for what must be wrong with us, what must have driven them away. Was I too much? Was I not enough? Did I love too hard? Did I hold too loosely? The questions swirl, and before we know it, we're measuring our value by someone else's decision to stay or go. But listen to me. Another person's inability to love you the way you deserve is not proof that you are unworthy of love. Their choice to leave is not a reflection of your value. It is a reflection of where they are, what they are capable of, what they are willing to give. Some people do not know how to hold something precious. Some people are not ready for the depth of love you carry. Some people leave not because you lack anything, but because they do. You are not less because they left. You are not diminished because someone could not see all that you are. You are whole, just as you have always been. Your worth was never in their hands. It has always been in you, in your kindness, your strength, your heart that dares to love even after being broken. Love is a beautiful thing, but it is not a certificate of worth. It is not something that validates your existence. You do not need to be loved by another to be enough. You were enough before they arrived. You are enough now that they are gone, and you will continue to be enough no matter who enters or exits your life. So stand tall, hold your head high. Do not let heartbreak convince you that you are anything less than extraordinary. The right love, the love that truly sees you, will never make you question your worth. It will cherish you, honor you, meet you where you are. But until that love comes, and even after it does, know this: you on your own are already more than enough. Love will come again. I know it doesn't feel that way now. I know your heart is weary, your trust feels fragile, and the idea of opening yourself up again seems like too great a risk, but love is not finished with you. It did not begin and end with one person. It is not a limited resource, not a single opportunity that once lost will never return. Love is abundant. It is vast, endless, moving like the tide, pulling away, yes, but always, always returning. I know what heartbreak does. It makes you wary. It makes you question. It wraps around you like armor, convincing you that keeping your heart locked away is the safest thing to do. After all, if you do not love again, you cannot be hurt again. If you do not open the door, no one can walk in just to leave. That is what heartbreak tells you, that love is a risk too great to take. But I am here to tell you that love is always worth the risk. Not because every love will last forever, not because every person you open your heart to will stay, but because love itself is what makes life rich. It is what colors the world, what softens the edges of existence, what makes us human. To love is to be alive, and to refuse love out of fear of loss is to deny yourself one of the most beautiful parts of being. Yes, you have been hurt. Yes, you have known loss, but that does not mean love is not meant for you. It does not mean your heart is broken beyond repair. It does not mean that the kind of love you dream of, the kind that stays, that grows, that nurtures, is not waiting somewhere ahead of you. You must believe that love will come again, not as a desperate hope, but as a quiet certainty. Not as something you chase, but as something you trust. The right love, the real love, will find you when you are ready. When you are standing fully in your own light, when you have learned that your happiness does not depend on another's presence, but on your own ability to embrace life. Love will not come to fill a void. It will come to complement the life you have already built. And this time it will be different. This time it will not ask you to shrink, to change, to beg. It will not come with conditions or hesitations. It will arrive with open hands, steady steps, and a heart that sees you, truly sees you, and chooses you without doubt. So do not close your heart forever. Do not let one ending convince you that love is not worth the journey. Love is not gone. It is simply making its way back to you. And when it arrives, you will be ready, not because you needed it to complete you, but because you have already learned to be whole on your own. Life does not end with heartbreak. It does not stop when love leaves, and it does not lose its beauty just because someone chose to walk away. You are still here, still standing, still capable of love, of joy, of endless new beginnings. Pain may visit, but it does not define you. Loss may shape you, but it does not diminish your worth. Every tear you have shed, every lesson you have learned, every moment of healing you have fought for has only made you stronger, wiser, and more ready for the love that is still to come. So walk forward, not with fear, but with faith. Trust that life has greater things in store, that love will return in ways even more beautiful than before. Hold your head high, knowing that you are enough, not because someone stays, not because someone chooses you, but because you are whole just as you are. The story is not over. Your heart will beat with love again. Your laughter will fill the air again. And one day you will look back and realize that every ending was simply leading you to something greater. Good luck on your journey, and may love find you when you least expect it, but when you are most ready. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Today I am specially addressing to my sisters and daughters. There comes a time in life when the weight of disappointment sits heavy on your shoulders. You've done all you can, given all you have, and still the world dares to test you. And when it does, when the road gets rough and your patience wears thin, you may find yourself standing at the edge of surrender, ready to walk away. But before you give up on a man, listen, he is not just the mistakes he has made, not just the burdens he carries. He is the sum of his trials, the echoes of his past, and the light of his own becoming. If you must judge, judge not from a place of anger, but of wisdom. If you must leave, leave not in haste, but in understanding. And if you must love, love with a heart that sees beyond today's struggles into tomorrow's promise. A man does not always wear his struggles on his face. He will wake up each morning, put on his shoes, straighten his back, and walk out into the world carrying burdens you may never know. He will laugh when he needs to cry. He will stand tall when his soul feels weak. He will tell you, "I'm fine," because that is what he was taught to say. But behind his eyes, beneath his skin, within his heart, there is a battle waging, one that he may not even have the words to explain. There is history in him, wounds stitched up by time, some still bleeding beneath the surface. Maybe his father was never there, or maybe he was there but never present. Maybe life handed him too much too soon, forcing him to be a man before he had the chance to be a boy. Maybe he has fallen so many times that he no longer trusts his own ability to stand. But what if, just what if, all he needs is one person to remind him that he is more than his pain? It is easy to look at someone and think they should be further along. It is easy to grow frustrated when they don't move at the speed you expect. But understand this, no two men walk the same path, and no two hearts heal at the same pace. What may be simple for one may be a mountain for another. And when you do not know the weight of his load, how can you judge the strength of his steps? He is not asking for pity. He is not seeking excuses. He only hopes to be seen, not just for his failures, but for his efforts. Some battles are loud and visible, fought in the open for the world to see. Others are silent wars waged in the corners of his mind, in the dead of night when no one is watching. Those are the hardest battles, the ones that cannot be measured, cannot be counted, cannot be won in a day. But even then, he fights. Even then, he chooses to rise, however slowly, however painfully, because something in him refuses to surrender. But what happens when the world only sees his missteps and not his progress? What happens when no one acknowledges how far he has come, only how far he has yet to go? A man like that will begin to believe the world's verdict. He will convince himself that he is not enough, that he is unworthy, that no matter how hard he tries, it will never be enough. And that belief, that quiet erosion of hope, is what destroys a man before failure ever could. That is why patience matters. That is why love must see beyond the surface. To stand beside a man in his struggle is not to ignore his flaws, but to remind him of his strength. It is not to excuse his shortcomings, but to encourage his growth. It is to say, I see you. I see the fight in you, the effort, the pain, the progress, and though I cannot fight your battles for you, I will not be the one to turn my back when the war is not yet over. Because the truth is, every man carries a battle you cannot see. The difference is, some men win because they had someone who believed in them. Others lose because no one ever did. So before you give up on a man, ask yourself, if today were his hardest battle, would you be his reason to keep fighting or his reason to surrender? Patience is not a sign of weakness. It is not submission, nor is it an invitation to be mistreated. Patience is strength wrapped in love. It is the ability to see beyond the present moment and believe in the possibility of growth. It is knowing that a man is not defined by his worst days, but by his willingness to become better. A man is not built in a day. He is shaped by his experiences, his failures, his victories, and the lessons life has forced upon him. There will be times when he stumbles, when he struggles to rise, when he seems lost even to himself. It is easy to look at him in those moments and think he is not trying hard enough, not moving fast enough, but true strength is found in the ability to wait, not in silence, not in suffering, but in understanding that growth is a process, not an event. A man who is learning, who is growing, who is fighting to be better, does not need someone to measure his progress with impatience. He does not need someone who stands with arms folded, waiting for him to prove his worth. What he needs is grace. What he needs is someone who sees the effort, not just the outcome. Someone who understands that becoming a good man does not happen overnight, and transformation is never instant. It takes strength to stay when frustration whispers that leaving would be easier. It takes courage to believe in someone when disappointment tries to convince you otherwise. But patience is not about ignoring reality. It is not about excusing patterns that do not change or waiting for someone who refuses to grow. Patience is about recognizing the difference between a man who is unwilling and a man who is still in the process of becoming. The world does not teach patience. It teaches urgency. It teaches that if something does not happen now, then it is not worth waiting for. But love, real love, knows that everything of value takes time. A tree does not grow in a day. A house is not built in an hour. And a good man, takes time to become who he is meant to be. If a man is trying, if he is learning, if he is making mistakes but refusing to quit, then patience is not wasted on him. He does not need someone to fix him. He needs someone who believes he is worth the effort. He needs someone who understands that love is not about demanding perfection, but about walking the journey with him as he becomes the man he is meant to be. There will be days when he falls short, days when his words do not match his actions, days when his fears get the best of him. And in those moments, impatience will tell you to walk away. Impatience will remind you of every flaw, every mistake, every disappointment. But love, the kind of love that builds, not breaks, will remind you of his potential, his progress, and the heart that is trying, even when the journey is slow. Some men never become their best selves because no one had the patience to see them through the process. Others rise because someone, somewhere believed in them enough to stay when it mattered most. That is the power of patience. It is not passive. It is not weak. It is strength. The kind that says, I see you, I believe in you, and I will not abandon you in the middle of your becoming. So before you give up on a man, ask yourself, are you walking away because he is unwilling to grow, or because his growth is taking longer than you expected? A good man is not perfect, but he is willing to grow. He will make mistakes, say the wrong things, choose the wrong paths, and sometimes disappoint the ones who love him. But a man's worth is not measured by his ability to avoid failure. It is measured by his willingness to learn from it. The road to becoming better is not smooth, and the journey to wisdom is not without missteps. The question is not whether a man will fall, but whether he will rise again. No man is born knowing how to be a leader, a protector, or a provider. He learns. He stumbles into understanding, fails his way into wisdom, and struggles toward the kind of strength that lasts. Life will test him, break him down, and force him to face himself. And if he is willing, if he is truly determined to be more than he was yesterday, he will change. Not because someone forces him to, not because the world demands it, but because he knows deep inside that he can be more. But growth is not easy. It is uncomfortable, painful, and slow. It demands that a man confront his weaknesses, acknowledge his flaws, and work through the wounds that shaped him. It requires him to unlearn habits that no longer serve him and embrace lessons that challenge everything he once believed. And sometimes, it looks like failure before it looks like progress. A man who is growing will not always get it right the first time. He will try and fail. He will take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. He will make promises with the right intentions and struggle to keep them. But if his heart is in the right place, if his effort is sincere, then perfection should never be the expectation. Growth is not about getting everything right. It is about refusing to remain the same. There is a difference between a man who does not care and a man who is still learning. A man who does not care will make excuses, repeat the same mistakes, and expect you to accept him as he is, with no intention of changing. But a man who is willing to grow will acknowledge his flaws, take responsibility, and do the work necessary to become better. He will not ask you to lower your standards. He will rise to meet them. He will not use his past as an excuse. He will use it as fuel to build a better future. But growth cannot be rushed. A man cannot be expected to undo years of habits, fears, and struggles in a single moment. The process is slow, and sometimes those who love him will need to walk beside him with patience. That does not mean accepting less than you deserve. It does not mean waiting for a man who refuses to grow. But it does mean recognizing when a man is trying and allowing him the space to evolve at his own pace. A good man is not one who has never failed. A good man is one who refuses to let his failures define him. He will not always have the right words. He will not always make the best choices. But if he is willing to listen, to learn, to correct his course when necessary, then his journey is one worth believing in. Growth is not an instant transformation. It is a lifelong commitment. The world is quick to judge a man by where he is today, but true strength is found in those who see where he is going. A man who is willing to grow will not remain the same. He will push himself, challenge himself, and become more than he was yesterday. And if you have ever doubted him, if you have ever wondered if he is capable of change, ask yourself, has he ever given up, or is he still trying? Because effort, even when imperfect, is the mark of a man who is on his way. So before you give up on a man, ask yourself, are you walking away from his flaws or from the man he is becoming? Grace is the bridge between failure and redemption. It is the space between who a man was and who he is trying to become. It is the quiet, unwavering belief that even in his lowest moments, he is not beyond growth, not beyond healing, not beyond the chance to rise again. Without grace, failure becomes a dead end. With grace, failure becomes a lesson, a stepping stone, a moment of redirection instead of destruction. Every man will face moments when he falls short of his own expectations, of his promises, of the person he wants to be. And when that happens, the world will often be quick to judge, to label him by his worst mistake, to tell him that redemption is beyond his reach. But who among us has not stumbled? Who among us has not needed grace at some point in life? The difference between a man who grows and a man who remains lost is often not just his own will to change, but whether grace is extended to him in the moments he needs it most. Grace does not mean ignoring a man's faults. It does not mean turning a blind eye to his actions or excusing behavior that continues to cause harm. Grace does not replace accountability, nor does it allow someone to stay the same without consequence. What grace does is recognize that a man is more than his worst moment. It allows him the space to take responsibility, to learn, to make amends, and to prove through action, through effort, through consistency, that he is willing to be better. A man who is given grace does not always change immediately. He may resist at first, unsure of whether he deserves another chance. He may wrestle with the weight of his past, questioning whether he can truly leave it behind. But grace, real grace, has a way of showing him that he is not defined by what he once did, but by what he chooses to do next. It is an invitation, not a guarantee. He must still decide to walk the path toward redemption. There is power in extending grace to someone who is trying. It is not weakness to believe in a man's potential. It is not foolishness to see the possibility of change. What is foolish is expecting perfection from anyone. What is weak is refusing to acknowledge that every person, man or woman, needs room to grow. But grace should never be given where it is not valued. If a man continues to make the same mistakes without effort, if he shows no desire to learn, if he treats grace as permission rather than as an opportunity, then he is not ready for redemption. Grace is for the man who is willing to take it and do the work. It is not a free pass to stay the same, but a lifeline for those who are trying to change. The world often sees failure as final. It tells a man that if he has fallen, he must stay down. But grace is what whispers, get up. Grace is what tells a man that he is not beyond repair. Grace is what reminds him that the future is still his to shape if he is willing to do the work. It takes strength to give grace. It takes wisdom to know when to give it. And it takes courage to believe that a man can rise from his own mistake. But if you have ever needed grace yourself, if you have ever longed for someone to believe in you despite your failures, then you know its power. You know that without it, the road to redemption is nearly impossible to walk. A man will only become better if he believes he still has the chance to be. And sometimes that chance comes not from within himself, but from someone who sees him not just for what he is, but for what he could be. So before you give up on a man, ask yourself, have you given him the space to change, or have you decided his failure is the end of his story? Leaving is easy. It requires no patience, no endurance, no faith in what could be. It is the simple act of deciding that something or someone is no longer worth the effort. And sometimes leaving is necessary. Sometimes it is the right choice, the only choice, but not always. Not when the struggle is part of the growth. Not when the foundation is strong and the cracks can still be repaired. Not when there is still something worth fighting for. Staying requires courage. It takes strength to remain when disappointment creeps in, when frustration rises, when the road ahead looks uncertain. It takes a heart that understands that anything worth having, anything truly meaningful, will be tested by time, by trials, by moments of doubt. A good man is not without his flaws. He will fall short, he will make mistakes, and there will be times when you wonder if he will ever become the man you know he can be. But if he is trying, if he is learning, if he is pushing himself to be better, then walking away too soon may mean leaving behind something that was still in the process of becoming. Love is not just about the easy days. It is not just about the laughter, the warmth, the joy of when everything is going right. Love is also about perseverance, about standing firm when the storm comes, about choosing to believe in someone when they are struggling to believe in themselves. It is easy to love a man when he is at his best, but real love, enduring love, sees him through his worst and still chooses to hold on when holding on is right. There is no strength in staying where there is no effort. There is no wisdom in waiting for a man who refuses to grow. Staying does not mean accepting less than you deserve. It does not mean ignoring the signs when someone is unwilling to change. But too often people walk away not because there is no hope, but because they expected the journey to be easy. They expected growth without struggle, change without resistance, progress without setbacks. But nothing of true value comes without effort. Nothing of true worth is built overnight. A man who is willing to fight for himself, for his future, for the love he values is a man worth standing beside. He may not always get it right, but he will always keep trying. And that effort, that determination is what separates those who stay stuck from those who rise. The world will tell you that you should never wait for anyone, that love should be effortless, that if a man is not already everything you want him to be, then he never will be. But wisdom knows better. Wisdom knows that growth takes time, that mistakes are not the end, that redemption is real, and that sometimes the best things in life are the ones we chose to fight for, even when it was easier to walk away. A house is not abandoned because one wall is cracked. A garden is not uprooted because a season of drought came. And a good man, a man who is trying, is not meant to be discarded simply because his journey is taking longer than expected. But staying is not about suffering. It is not about sacrificing your own peace for someone who does not value your presence. Staying is about believing in what is real, in what is still growing, in what has the potential to be more. It is about seeing beyond the struggle and recognizing that the fight is worth it. A time may come when walking away is the only choice left, when you have given all the patience, all the grace, all the love you can, and it is still not enough. But before you reach that moment, ask yourself, are you leaving because there is no hope, or are you leaving because it is simply easier than staying? Because leaving is easy, but staying requires the kind of strength that builds, the kind of love that lasts, the kind of heart that believes in more than just what is seen today. So before you give up on a man, ask yourself, are you walking away from struggle or from something that was still becoming something great? Not every man will become the best version of himself. Not every man will rise from his struggles, learn from his mistakes, or fight to be better. Some will stay the same because growth requires effort, and effort is not something everyone is willing to give. Some will choose comfort over change, pride over humility, selfishness over love. And when that happens, when a man shows you, not through words but through action, that he has no desire to grow, then no amount of patience, grace, or love will change him. A man must want it for himself. He must see his own shortcomings, recognize his own weaknesses, and decide within himself that he is not satisfied with where he is. He must be willing to put in the work, not just for you, not just for those around him, but for his own future, his own purpose, his own becoming. Because no one can change a man who does not first decide that he wants to change. It is easy to believe in potential. It is easy to see what someone could be, to hold on to hope that one day they will wake up and realize everything they are capable of. But potential is not enough. It is only the possibility of greatness, not the guarantee of it. A man can have all the potential in the world, but if he refuses to do the work, if he continues to make the same choices, repeat the same mistakes, and ignore the consequences of his actions, then he is not growing. He is staying exactly where he has always been. There comes a time when love is not enough, when your patience, your support, your unwavering belief in someone cannot make up for the fact that they are not willing to change. And in those moments, the hardest thing to do is to walk away, to accept that no matter how much you may want them to be more, they have to want it for themselves. You cannot force a man to be better. You cannot love him into growth. You can encourage, you can support, you can believe, but in the end, the choice is his alone. Some women waste years waiting for a man to change when he has shown them time and time again that he has no intention of doing so. They hold on to what he could be, what they wish he would be, instead of seeing him for who he is right now. They excuse behavior that should not be excused, tolerate actions that should not be tolerated, and convince themselves that if they just wait a little longer, love him a little harder, he will finally become the man they hoped he would be. But love cannot make a man grow. It can inspire him, it can encourage him, but it cannot force him to be someone he refuses to become. A man who truly wants to change will not just say it, he will show it. He will take responsibility for his actions. He will make the effort, even when it is hard. He will prove through consistency that he is not just making promises, but keeping them. And if he is not doing that, if he is still making excuses, still blaming others, still repeating the same patterns, then he is not growing. He is choosing to stay the same. Growth requires action. It requires sacrifice. It requires a man to be honest with himself about the ways he has fallen short and to make the necessary changes, not because someone else is asking him to, but because he knows he must. If he is not willing to do that, then no one can do it for him. The hardest lesson to learn is that sometimes walking away is the only way to protect yourself. That staying, hoping, waiting will not create change where change is not wanted. And though it may hurt, though it may feel like giving up, it is not. It is simply recognizing that you cannot save someone who does not want to be saved. You cannot fix someone who does not see themselves as broken. And you cannot build a future with someone who is unwilling to do the work to deserve it. So before you give up on a man, ask yourself, has he truly given his all to grow? Or are you holding on to someone who has no intention of changing? Growth is a journey, not a destination. A man is not defined by his failures, but by his willingness to rise from them. He is not measured by how perfect he is today, but by how committed he is to becoming better tomorrow. Patience, grace, and belief in his potential can help him along the way, but he must choose growth for himself. Not every man will rise. Not every man will do the work, and that is why wisdom is needed to know when to stand by him and when to walk away. Love is powerful, but it cannot transform someone who refuses to change. There is strength in staying for a man who is trying, just as there is wisdom in leaving when effort is absent. So before you give up on a man, look closely. Is he growing or is he just standing still? Is he learning from his mistakes or simply repeating them? If he is fighting to be better, then perhaps he is worth the patience. But if he is unwilling to change, then no amount of waiting will turn him into the man you deserve. May you always have the wisdom to see the difference, the courage to hold on when it is right, and the strength to walk away when it is necessary. Good luck, and thank you. Dear friends, there is a beauty in falling and rising again. There is a rhythm to it, a song that the heart hums when it has been bent but not broken. Every single soul in this room has tasted defeat in some form. Every single one of us has walked through nights that felt endless, storms that felt merciless, and silence that felt unkind. But here you are, still standing, still breathing, still daring to believe that tomorrow carries something better. That is no small thing. That is the miracle of resilience. You see, the world will never stop testing you. It will shake your faith. It will press on your spirit. It will try to convince you that you are not enough. And yet, even in the face of those trials, there lies within you an unshakable power. The power to rise. The power to lift your chin when life wants to bow your head. The power to speak light into the dark corners of your own mind. That is the art of bouncing back. We do not always control the blows we receive. They come unexpected. A dream may collapse. A friend may walk away. A door may close with no warning. But what we control is the way we answer those moments. Do we stay down or do we rise again? Do we listen to the voice of doubt or do we find the deeper voice inside us that whispers, "Stand up, you are stronger than this"? That voice is the treasure of resilience. To be resilient is not to be untouched. It is not to pretend you do not bleed. It is to know that even with scars, you are still whole. It is to know that even with tears, you are still unbroken. It is to know that even with fear, you are still brave. There is no shame in falling, but there is glory in rising again. Every time you get up, you are telling life you will not have the last word. Look at the trees after a storm. The wind bends them, yet they sway back upright. Look at the waves on the shore. They crash hard, yet they gather themselves to rise again. Nature itself teaches us resilience, and you, my friend, are no less than the wonders of nature. You carry the same law of return, the same spirit of renewal. Every fall carries the seed of a stronger rise, and if you take a moment to look back on your own journey, you will see the truth of it. Think of the times when life felt heavy, when you were struck down by loss, rejection, or disappointment so deep it seemed impossible to move forward. In those moments, it feels as though everything has been taken from you, as though the ground beneath your feet has given way. Yet somehow, with time, with courage, and with faith, you found yourself rising again. And when you rose, you did not come back as the same person you were before the fall. You came back wiser, braver, and with a spirit that carried a deeper strength. That is the miracle that is hidden inside every fall. When we stumble, when we fail, when life drags us to the ground, it is easy to see only the loss. It is easy to let the hurt blind us to the lesson. But every fall is not the end of the story. It is a chapter that carries within it a hidden gift, a seed of growth waiting to bloom when the time is right. That seed is resilience, and it is planted in the soil of struggle. Without the fall, the seed could not break open. Without the pressure of the dirt, the roots could not grow strong. What looks like defeat often turns out to be preparation for a rise that is greater than anything you have known before. Think of the child learning to walk. Each fall on unsteady feet is not a failure, but a step toward balance. Think of the dreamer who is rejected time and time again until the right door finally opens. Every denial, every closed opportunity becomes the ground that strengthens their determination. What seems like an ending is often the beginning of a new chapter that carries more meaning than the one before. And so it is with you. Every time you fall, you are not only closer to standing again, you are stronger because of it. The truth is, strength is not built in moments of comfort. Strength is built when you are tested. Strength is born when you are stretched beyond what you thought you could bear. The fall may shake your confidence, it may bruise your pride, but it cannot erase your worth. If anything, it reminds you that you are human, and being human means having the courage to get back up no matter how hard the landing was. There is no shame in stumbling. The only tragedy is refusing to rise again. There will be days when rising feels impossible, when the weight of disappointment pins you to the ground. But even in those moments, there is a quiet power stirring inside you, a reminder that you were made to rise. It may take time. It may take patience. It may take tears. But with each attempt to stand, your spirit learns something new. It learns how to be patient. It learns how to endure. And most importantly, it learns how to keep hope alive even when hope feels far away. Every fall also deepens your compassion. Once you have tasted struggle, you can recognize it in others. You understand their pain because you have carried your own. And so your resilience becomes not just a gift to you, but a light for someone else. Your rise becomes their proof that they too can stand again. Your story becomes the encouragement that someone else desperately needs. And that is one of the most beautiful parts of resilience. It does not only serve you, it serves the world around you. So the next time life pulls you down, do not curse the fall. Do not see it as the end. Remember instead that every fall carries the seed of a stronger rise. Trust that when you rise again, you will not rise as the same person who fell. You will rise as someone more grounded, more determined, more alive. That is the art of resilience. and it is waiting to be lived by you every time you choose to rise. Resilience is not about avoiding pain, but transforming it into power. We live in a world where many believe that strength means never breaking, never hurting, never shedding a tear. But true strength has never been about wearing armor so thick that nothing can reach you. True strength is the ability to feel the sting of loss, to carry the ache of disappointment, to walk through the valley of pain, and still find a way to turn it into something that gives you life. Pain will come to us all, but resilience teaches us that pain is not the end. It can be the beginning of something new, something stronger, something brighter. When pain strikes, our first instinct is to run from it, to bury it, to pretend it never happened. Yet what we resist often grows heavier. Pain does not shrink when ignored. It transforms when embraced. To be resilient is to face the storm head-on, to acknowledge the wound, and then to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I build from this? How can this hurt shape me into someone more powerful than before? In those questions lies the art of transformation. You are not defined by the pain you feel, but by the power you create from it. Think of a diamond. It begins as ordinary carbon, nothing special, nothing rare. But under pressure, under heat, under forces that could destroy, it becomes something unbreakable, something brilliant. That is the same path for the human spirit. Pressure, pain, and trials are not the end of you. They are the forces that shape you into the strongest version of yourself. Resilience is the process of taking what was meant to shatter you and turning it into the very reason you shine. Pain has a way of revealing what lies inside us. It strips away the unnecessary. It forces us to confront what we value, what we believe, and who we truly are. When you learn to transform pain, you begin to see it not as a curse, but as a teacher. Every heartbreak can teach you about love that is real. Every failure can teach you about effort that matters. Every disappointment can teach you patience and perseverance. The lessons hurt, yes, but they plant seeds that grow into wisdom and strength. That is the quiet alchemy of resilience, turning pain into power, turning endings into beginnings, turning wounds into wisdom. We often admire those who rise from impossible circumstances, those who stand tall after devastation. But what we are really admiring is not that they avoided pain, but that they allowed their pain to become the soil of their greatness. They did not let their suffering harden them into bitterness. They let it shape them into warriors of light. They turned tears into determination, silence into vision, and setbacks into stepping stones. That is what resilience looks like when lived fully. You too carry that ability. It is already within you. You may think your pain has weakened you, but in truth, it has given you tools. Every sleepless night has given you empathy. Every disappointment has given you perspective. Every struggle has given you patience. These are not small gifts. These are the very weapons that will allow you to walk through life with a strength that cannot be faked and cannot be taken away. The beauty of resilience is that it does not deny the reality of pain. It does not tell you to smile when you want to cry. It tells you to cry, to feel, to break open if you must, but then to gather those broken pieces and build something even stronger. Your scars do not make you less. They make you proof that you endured, that you survived, that you turned hurt into hope. So when pain comes, do not be afraid of it. Do not believe it is there to destroy you. Instead, believe that it carries within it the seed of your own transformation. Let it teach you. Let it stretch you. Let it strengthen you. Because resilience is not the absence of pain, it is the power you find within it and the life you build beyond it. That is how you rise. Scars are proof that you fought, healed, and kept moving forward. Too often, people hide their scars as though they are signs of weakness or shame, forgetting that a scar is not the same as a wound. A wound is open, painful, and raw, but a scar is the mark left after healing. It is the evidence that something tried to break you and it failed. Every scar you carry is a silent story of resilience, a reminder that you have endured what once seemed unbearable and still continued on your path. Life leaves its marks on all of us. Some scars are visible to the eye, some are hidden deep within the heart, but every single one tells of battles survived, When you look at your scars, do not see them as flaws. See them as medals of honor. They are proof that you were tested and that you chose not to surrender. A scar is not a symbol of defeat. It is a declaration of victory because you walked through pain and came out on the other side. Think about the times when you felt broken, when it seemed the world had taken more than you could give. You may have thought you would never recover, never find joy again, never breathe without the weight of that moment pressing on your chest. Yet here you are. The pain that once cut so deeply no longer bleeds. Instead, it has left a mark that speaks of healing. That is resilience in its truest form, not the absence of hurt, but the transformation of hurt into strength. Scars also carry lessons. They remind us that we are not invincible, but they also remind us that we are unbreakable in spirit. They teach us that falling is part of the journey, but rising is always within our reach. And they give us the courage to face new challenges, because once you have healed from what you thought was impossible, you begin to realize that there is no storm too fierce for you to endure. Each scar whispers, "You have done this before. You can do it again." There is also a quiet beauty in scars. They tell stories no words can fully capture. A scar on the body may remind you of a fight you overcame or an accident you survived. A scar on the soul may remind you of love lost, of betrayal endured, of dreams delayed. Yet both kinds of scars carry the same truth: you were hurt, but you healed. And in that healing, you became wiser, stronger, and more compassionate than before. Resilience is not about pretending the pain never existed. It is about owning your scars with pride and knowing they shaped you into who you are today. There is power in standing tall and saying, "Yes, I was wounded, but I am still here." That kind of honesty liberates you, and it inspires others who are still in the midst of their battles. Your scars become not just your own testimony, but a beacon of hope for those who wonder if healing is possible. Do not be afraid of your scars. Do not cover them out of fear of judgment. Remember that people are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to authenticity. They are drawn to the one who has walked through fire and still carries light in their eyes. Your scars tell the world that you are real, that you have endured, that you have lived fully. They are not blemishes, they are blessings. So the next time you trace your scars, whether with your hand or with your memory, do not see brokenness, see proof. Proof that you fought, proof that you healed, proof that you kept moving forward when it would have been easier to stop. And in those scars lies the very essence of resilience, the art of falling and rising again stronger than before. The greatest strength lies in refusing to stay down. Life, with all its unpredictability, will knock you down more times than you care to count. Sometimes it comes through disappointment, sometimes through heartbreak, sometimes through loss so heavy it feels like your spirit cannot carry the weight. Falling is not a matter of if but when. No one escapes it. The real measure of strength is not whether you fall, but whether you choose to rise again. Refusing to stay down is where true resilience is born, because it is in that decision that you claim power over circumstances that tried to take it away from you. When you fall, it is tempting to stay there. The ground feels cold but strangely safe. Rising takes energy. Rising takes courage. Rising takes hope that often feels buried beneath layers of despair. But every time you decide to rise, no matter how slowly, no matter how shaky your steps may be, you are declaring that life will not keep you captive. You are showing yourself that even though pain is real, defeat is not final unless you choose to accept it. That choice is the very heart of resilience. History is filled with stories of people who refused to stay down when the world told them they were finished. They failed again and again. They endured humiliation. They faced rejection, but each time they got back up, they grew stronger. Each rise was a message not only to themselves, but to the world. You cannot bury someone who refuses to stop rising. That kind of spirit is not reserved for heroes of history. It is available to you, to me, to anyone willing to take another step forward after stumbling. Refusing to stay down does not mean you rise without scars or without fear. It means you rise despite them. It means you let your scars remind you of your strength, not your weakness. It means you carry your fear but still move forward. The act of rising is not about perfection, it is about persistence. Even the smallest effort to stand again is a victory. Even the faintest decision to try again is strength. Think of the seed buried deep in the soil. Darkness surrounds it, weight presses on it. Yet, despite its fragile form, it pushes upward until it breaks through the earth, reaching for light. It does not stay buried, though it easily could. That seed carries within it the will to rise, and so do you. Every time life buries you under hardship, you carry within yourself the same force to push upward, to break through, to reach for light again. The greatest strength is not found in those who never fall. It is found in those who fall and rise so many times that falling no longer frightens them. They know that no matter how hard they are struck, their spirit will find a way to stand. And once you truly believe that about yourself, once you embrace the truth that nothing can keep you down unless you allow it, you become unstoppable. Challenges may come, storms may rage, but you will always rise again because that is who you are. Every rise builds momentum. Each time you get up after falling, you gather courage for the next challenge. What once seemed impossible begins to feel possible because you have lived through worse and survived. You begin to understand that falling is not the end but part of the journey, and staying down is the only true defeat. Refusing to stay down turns every stumble into a stepping stone, every failure into a lesson, every setback into a setup for a stronger comeback. So when life pushes you to the ground, take your moment, breathe, feel the weight, but do not stay there. Gather your strength, even if it is only a little, and rise. Rise with the wisdom of your scars. Rise with the courage of your battles. Rise with the faith that tomorrow is worth fighting for. The greatest strength lies not in never falling, but in refusing to stay down. And in that refusal, you will always find the art of resilience. Each setback is a hidden invitation to grow beyond limits. In the moment, setbacks rarely feel like invitations. They feel like locked doors, like walls too high to climb, like defeats that leave us questioning our worth. Yet, if you take a closer look at the times you were forced to step back, you will often realize they were not endings but turning points. They carried within them opportunities to stretch yourself in ways you never imagined, to discover abilities you did not know you had, and to build resilience that would have remained hidden without the challenge. When a dream shatters, when a plan fails, when the path you counted on suddenly disappears, it is easy to call it failure. It is easy to give in to disappointment and believe that life has closed its doors on you. But resilience teaches us to see differently. It tells us that within every setback lies a chance to grow, to rise above what once held us back, and to become more than what we were before. The hidden invitation is always there. You simply need the courage to accept it. Setbacks strip away illusions. They force us to examine what truly matters. They push us out of comfort zones we might never leave on our own. Though uncomfortable, though painful, they break the shell that limits our growth. Think about it. How many times has a closed door redirected you to something better? How many times did losing what you thought you needed lead you to what you truly deserve? It is often only in looking back that we realize the setback was actually the very thing that saved us from staying small. Growth is never gentle. It requires friction, challenge, and discomfort. Setbacks provide exactly that. They test your patience, your persistence, and your faith. They show you where your strength lies and where you must build more. They uncover weaknesses, yes, but in doing so, they give you the chance to transform them into strengths. That is why resilience is not about avoiding setbacks, but about embracing them as stepping stones. When we shift our view of setbacks, they begin to lose their power to crush us. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" we begin to ask, "What can I learn from this?" That change in perspective is where growth begins. Every challenge, every rejection, every failure becomes a teacher. The lessons may be hard, but they prepare you for greater victories ahead. Setbacks also teach us humility. They remind us that we are not in complete control, that the journey will not always unfold according to our plans. But humility is not weakness. It opens us to learning, to adapting, to seeing new possibilities. When pride is stripped away, what remains is a heart ready to be shaped, a spirit willing to grow. In this way, setbacks clear the ground for new beginnings. Consider the stories of those who inspire us most. Behind every triumph lies a trail of setbacks. Behind every success lies failure that taught endurance. The difference between those who stay down and those who rise lies in how they interpret the setback. Some see it as the end, while others see it as an invitation to grow. The latter are the ones who discover the hidden strength within themselves, the ones who step into new levels of resilience and purpose. You too have this choice. Every time you face a setback, you can allow it to shrink you, or you can use it to stretch you. You can stay stuck in frustration, or you can rise into growth. The invitation is always there, waiting to be accepted. It may not look like a gift at first glance, but when you embrace it, you will see how every setback is shaping you, preparing you, and calling you to become more than you once believed possible. So the next time life pushes you back, do not despair. Look closer. Hidden within the setback is an invitation to grow, to rise beyond your limits, and to step into the fullness of who you are meant to be. Accept it, and you will find that resilience was with you all along, guiding you towards strength you never knew you carried. Resilient minds bend but never break. Life, in its endless turns, will place heavy weight upon your shoulders. It will test your patience, your will, and your courage. The storms will come, and the winds will blow fiercely against you, yet those who carry resilience within their minds do not crumble under that weight. They may bend, they may sway, they may be pushed to the edge of their endurance, but they do not break. There is a quiet strength that lives inside them, a flexibility of spirit that allows them to bend without losing their foundation. That is the true power of resilience. It does not demand that you be unshaken, only that you remain unbroken. The bending moments of life are not signs of weakness. They are signs of survival. Like the tree in a storm that bends with the wind instead of snapping beneath it, resilient minds know when to yield, when to adapt, when to let the storm pass without resisting it too rigidly. Strength is not always about standing tall without moving. Sometimes strength is about bending gracefully and rising again once the winds are still. To break is to end, but to bend is to endure. Resilience allows you to carry hope even when hope feels fragile. It lets you keep going when the path is unclear. It whispers that even though life is pressing hard against you, you will find your way back. This is not denial of hardship, but acceptance of it, knowing that pain will visit, but it does not have the power to destroy you. You bend, yes, but you remain. And when the pressure lessens, you straighten once more, stronger for having endured. The beauty of a resilient mind lies in its ability to adapt. Life rarely follows the path we draw in our dreams. Plans change, people leave, opportunities fade. But resilience allows you to adjust, to rewrite your story without losing faith in its worth. Without resilience, change feels like destruction. With resilience, change feels like transformation. You learn to say, "This is not what I expected, but I will grow from it." That is bending without breaking. There will be moments when bending feels like breaking. When the weight of circumstances bends you so low, you wonder if you can ever stand tall again. But in those very moments, resilience is shaping you. It is teaching you patience. It is showing you the depths of your endurance. It is revealing that your spirit is far stronger than you believed. Often, it is only after the storm has passed that you realize you did not break, though you came close. And that realization becomes fuel for every future trial. You know you can survive because you already have. Resilient minds do not deny their pain. They feel it fully. They cry, they stumble, they fall to their knees. But even in the midst of their struggle, they do not lose sight of their power to rise again. Bending allows them to honor their humanity while holding on to their strength. It gives them space to feel, to heal, and to gather themselves for the rise that always comes after. To bend but not break is to live with trust. Trust that no storm lasts forever. Trust that no night goes on without the promise of dawn. Trust that even in your weakest moment, something unshackable remains inside you. That trust is what carries you through. That trust is what shapes you into someone who cannot be broken, no matter how many storms you face. So when life bends you, do not fear. Let yourself sway with the wind. Let yourself adjust with the weight. But remember always that you are not breaking, you are enduring. And when the storm clears, you will stand again, unbroken, unshaken in spirit, and stronger than before. That is the essence of resilience, the quiet power of bending without ever breaking. True victory is not in never falling, but in rising every single time. Life has a way of testing the strength of our spirit by bringing us to the ground. It does not ask permission. It does not wait for us to be ready. It strikes when we least expect it. And when we fall, the world often tries to convince us that falling is failure. But resilience teaches a different truth, that the real measure of victory is not how few times you stumble, but how many times you refuse to stay down. Every rise is a triumph. Every comeback is proof of the unshakable spirit within you. Falling is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of effort, a sign that you dared to move, dared to try, dared to believe. No one who has ever achieved anything worth celebrating has walked a straight, perfect path. Their victories were carved through falls, rejections, and failures. What set them apart was not luck or perfection, but persistence. They rose again and again, no matter how hard the fall. That is where true victory lies, not in avoiding defeat, but in transforming it into fuel for the next attempt. There is a quiet courage in rising. It is not loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is nothing more than whispering to yourself, I will try again tomorrow. Sometimes it is taking one small step when everything in you wants to stop. Yet each of these small risings builds into a life of strength. Resilience is not about one great act of bravery. It is about choosing to rise over and over until rising becomes who you are. The truth is, falling refines us. It humbles us, it shapes us, it strips away illusions of control. But in that process, it also builds endurance. When you rise from a fall, you rise with new wisdom. You rise with deeper gratitude. You rise with compassion for others who stumble because you know the weight of the ground. Each rise changes you, molding you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. Victory that comes without falling often leaves us shallow, untested, and unprepared for life's deeper trials. But victory that comes after many risings is rich and lasting because it was earned through persistence. It carries the taste of struggle and the sweetness of endurance. It is not easily shaken because it was built through hardship. That is why true victory belongs to those who rise, not to those who never fall. There is also beauty in the journey of rising. When you rise, you prove to yourself that nothing can define you except your own determination. You show yourself that you are stronger than the voices of doubt, stronger than the weight of failure, stronger than the fear that told you to give up. Rising again is not just about moving forward. It is about reclaiming your power, reminding yourself that you are still in control of your story. And with every rise, you inspire others. Someone is always watching, someone who feels broken, someone who wonders if they will ever stand again. When they see you rise, they see hope. Your resilience becomes their encouragement. Your refusal to quit becomes their proof that it is possible. This is the ripple effect of resilience. The victory of one rise spreads beyond you and breathes life into others. So if you have fallen, do not measure yourself by the fall. Measure yourself by the courage it takes to rise. Every time you get up, no matter how bruised, no matter how tired, you are victorious. That is the art of resilience, the quiet but unshakable truth, that true victory is not found in never falling, but in rising every single time. As we come to the close of this journey together, remember that life's trials are not meant to break us. They are meant to shape us. Every fall, every setback, every scar is a testament to your strength, a marker of the resilience that lives within you. To be resilient is not to avoid pain, but to transform it into power. It is to bend without breaking, to rise again and again, and to embrace the hidden invitations that life places along your path. True victory is found not in never falling, but in rising every single time, carrying the wisdom, courage, and hope that only experience can give. So carry yourself forward with faith in your own strength. Honor your scars, trust your spirit, and never doubt that you have within you the power to rise again and again, no matter the storm. Let resilience guide you, let courage define you, and let each new day remind you that you are stronger than you have ever imagined. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for allowing me to share these words with you. May you rise always, and may your spirit remain unshakable.